to the population.
This wraps up the luncheon edition of news as produced by Triple N for today, Monday, 31st October 2022. I have been your presenter, Don Ezra Francois. Thank you for joining us.
From many distant lands, our forefathers came, some seeking adventure, some bound in chains. Through battles waged and fought, through victory and pain, by test of their courage, our freedom was gained. In homage to those gone before us, the heroes of lands in the sun, we vow to join hands and to focus on building one Caribbean. Raise your voices high, sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong, feel our hearts beat as one.
Welcome, brothers, welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program On Target. And as usual, as soon as we start this program, you can pick up a telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject. We speak about anything: politics, religion, socio-economic issues trending. But most important, you can raise your own issue independent from what we speak about. And we take calls. We encourage people to, we don't like rules, but we encourage people to be respectful to one another. We have a good, strong democratic system in the country, and people must express their views. But you must remember, people are going to be different from you. So you could just call us and tell us you don't like our program or you disagree with us, and we still will welcome you. We're in the month of October. In fact, it's the last day in October. October is always an interesting month in Grenada. It's a month when we had the greatest violence ever. The leader of the government with a number of other members in the leadership was executed, lined up against a wall and shot, dead. The body was collected. They had to take spade to help pick up the flesh torn by the bullets of the gun. It was said that they were burned and then buried. It was also said that during the invasion, that the remains from what was burned was dug up and collected by the Americans. Interesting history in Grenada. George Brizan wrote The Island of Conflict. Even Brizan, what he taught in school, when he ready to publish a book, it was said that he found out that the revolution had already taken place. Maurice Bishop was in power, and he had to delete a chapter because he spoke about not too nicely about Maurice Bishop's cousin. You see, it was alleged that the Laguenards did not support Fedor on the last minute. So after Fedor took over Pilot Hill in Grenville, he realized that the Laguenards are not supporting it. The Governor General in Paraclete, Governor Ninian Home, after he realized Fedor taking over, he feared to pass Granatan. So he went back over the Belvedere. And Fedor realized that his struggle failed. So he making over back the Belvedere. And that is how the Governor Ninian Home was captured by Fedor and executed. Maurice Bishop in 1979 afraid to pass Granite Town. When he landed on the airport in St. Andrews, Paul's, by the time he reached, he realized the individuals who were supposed to come to meet him on the airport, not on the airport, so he afraid to pass Granite Town. Afraid they go execute him in Granite Town. So he went on St. David's. You have to remember Innocent Belma was also assassinated. And perhaps he was the first politician in the Caribbean to be executed or assassinated while in office. So we have this history of violence. Sometimes when things look real calm and nice in Grenada, bang, have violence. But October is an interesting time. I am not one that in recent times have grown not to support history in school. I think when monkey writes his story, monkey always right. If you tell the people who want to glorify the revolution that marketing board was not started during Bishop period, they would be angry with you. Can't tell them that. Because they wrote that was the case. And that is their truth. But a strong gay right going to tell you marketing board was started in 1973. A serious history. So the revolution is correct and the gay right is correct. It's their own version of history, their own version of the truth. That in 1973, NIB was started, National Importing Board. And when the revolution come, they add the M. So the M was added to a National Importing Board, to Marketing National Importing Board in 1979. But when Grenadians want to glorify the revolutionary experiment, the coup d'etat for 4.5 years that resulted in over 3,000 people going in jail. And the comrades don't want to hear that. And it's important. No, because it seems that some very educated, young, aspiring politicians don't know our history. Or they're twisting the truth conveniently. Maurice Bishop, they claim he's a hero, but he's the first politician in Grenada that hid behind women and children. Every time Maurice Bishop called out a demonstration, he made certain that it was crowded with children and women. He feared perhaps if he went out there without women and children, he would have to face Gary's supporters. And Gary insisted that no children and women must be in his demonstration. Two totally different individuals. One hid among women and children, and the other did not want women and children. In the olden days, a man would not be made a hero if he hid behind a woman's dress. But that is history. If you wasn't June 1979, you would have gotten PRA milk in school. But when the revolution come, they changed the name of the milk. From the World Health Organization or whatever used to give the milk in Grenada. That since in the 70s, the very said milk was given in school. But during the experiment, they changed it to PRA milk. Yes, scholar, welcome. Yes, scholar, good morning and welcome. Welcome, caller. Welcome. All right, we lost that caller. So nothing is wrong with that. It's their history. They want to glorify the coup d'etat, the revolutionary experiment that lasts for 4.5 years. So don't expect them to tell you the negatives. But if you genuine and you want to know anything that resembles the truth, there are still the Holy Fathers there. So you can get information from the people who were there. Man say, I was wrong. I was there. And I knew and I know. So you're not only reading what somebody writes, you're getting it exactly from those who was in jail, those who was there. If you want to know about the Rasta struggle, go and ask I Free. I Free is still there. He was in jail. He knew he was there. He picked up guns. And after Morris Bishop jailing the Rasta, they jail him. And he's still in Grenada today, 77 years. He celebrated his birthday a couple days ago. So you could ask people directly. If you are disputing the fact that 3,000 people was in jail, ask the people who were in jail. Better yet, ask Tillman Thomas. He was the human rights lawyer. He was the prime minister of Grenada. So he's going to tell you the exact number. So if it's 2,099, I'll apologize. But I said it's 3,000. It's more than 3,000. Ask the people who went to jail. A number of them is still alive. Dr. Japal dead. But ask them. This is October. And you could pick up the telephone and give me a call on that or any issue. You see, it's important that we have an opportunity to know the history, to know a version of the history for people who was there. That is what made Christianity so strong. They had empirical evidence, and they had statements from deathbed witness. 11 of the disciples were executed, were martyred, 11 of them. Only one disciple that died a natural death. That was John. And he was thrown in a pot of oil. And he still survived. All the others was martyred. He was murdered. So that was empirical evidence. So today in Grenada, before you jumping up and crying, Bishop, we love you. Bishop, we need you. Bishop, come and help us. You must know the truth. That Maurice Bishop jailed 3,000 Grenadians. Every little child in Grenada must know that. So we're repeating it for those who dare challenge us. So that every little child is going to know that must be the truth. Because I hear it in music, I read it in the book, and it was widespread. Don't hide that. Yeah. And that is important. You have a small country with 100,000 people. People want to glorify an experiment for 4.5 years that led to the incarceration without charge, without trial, without an opportunity for anyone to defend themselves of 3,000 Grenadians. 3,000 to 4,000 flee the country. And during that 4.5 years, they supervised over the worst crimes after slavery and colonialism. The Prime Minister of Grenada ought to know that. But it seems that he don't know. So we need to tell him that. He also needs to know that if you interfere with the spirit of an individual who died under shock and traumatic circumstances, an individual who was lying up against a wall and shot, an individual who refused to turn his face and decide to stare into the eyes of the gunmen who assassinated him. That spirit is vengeful. Even a neophyte, a student in metaphysics and spirituality would know you don't interfere with spirits like that. They're unpredictable, and they could be very vengeful, and they could overwhelm you if you're not strong. And the mere fact you interfere with them, it shows a high level of infantile behavior. So you will not be able to manage these kind of unruly spirit who have the tendency to be vengeful. We need to know that. We need to know these things. That is history. I always encourage people to teach their children their history. Because when monkey writes a story, monkey always write. People write things based upon their own interests. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the truth. So when individuals glorifying the revolution, they must know some of the sad stories. They must know some of the sad stories that took place. Some of the people that cried tears for the children. Some of the challenges we had in school. When in school you have children that are considered the pioneers, the flowers of the revolution, and they had their gun in their bag. Some of the teachers learn to keep themselves quiet. That this boy is a militia and he have a gun. Some of them went home in 1 or 2 cases, not very many cases. They went home and run the stepfather. Get out of the house. I don't want to see you no more. Every week, Grenadians was jumping the boat and run, particularly males, because they was considered as a counter, because they was threatened, or because they interpreted statements made as a threat. And that is our history too. Not only what is written. So parents must give serious thought to educate your own children about your history. Nothing is wrong in telling them that you went to school with fig and blogger in a dano pan with smoker in head. You see, the family was so big that when you buy quarter pound of smoker, somebody must get the head. They used to give daddy the meat. Daddy, the male is the biggest producer in the house. And people had big families, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 16 children. Tell your children the stories. Children now see parents with houses and cars in the yard, water in the house, electricity and telephone, and they believe their parents was always rich. So they become very unproductive. And that is not good for our development. It's not good when your children believe that he was always rich, because you refuse to educate them about your history. You refuse to let them know that you couldn't buy milk. You couldn't buy milk, so the children used to get hot water. But in those days, they used to say, hatata. Hatata. Say, what you giving the child? Hatata. Hot water. They sweeten the hot water. Some parents used to put a piece of live board in it. Lime board. Some people didn't even have land to have lime board. They had to go in the neighbor's land to get some lime board, or sugar dish, or Carla. So that is what they used to use. But you never tell your children that. You never tell your children that quarter pound of pigtail, quarter pound of snout was a lot of meat in those days. Yes, caller, welcome.
Yeah, afternoon.
Yes, my brother, welcome.
I want to talk about the challenge with your Prime Minister in the courts. The money that he took from the coffers and handed it out.
I didn't hear this one.
I said, this is why I want the matter to courts. The money that your Prime Minister carried out.
Yes, caller?
The money that that your prime minister took, share it out to his supporters, those that support the teachers' vote. So I have him to court because you'd have to pay back those monies. Those monies was not his. Court said that it is illegal to pay them. And he just took the money, although he knew that, he took it back.
Well, I don't think that might. I don't think there is a.
The court decided that.
Okay.
The court decided that because the same way the teacher was able to take the government to court for the money, and the court said, no, you did not work for the money, and the gentleman just took it and share it out. Like it's his, he pushed it in the pocket and share it out. I think this is really absurd.
Okay. All right. But the Prime Minister said that he gave them as a result of for good relationship. So it had been a cabinet decision. So while he might have recognized that they did not have a legal obligation based upon the result of the court, while the government didn't have a legal obligation to give them, to pay them money, but the government, I think perhaps it is in their authority for cabinet to take a decision to give them as an act of goodwill. So I think it's on that justification and basis the government give them. The government said to foster good relationship. So that may not be illegal. It might be immoral, but may not be illegal. Because the government gave them to foster good relationship. What he mean by that is left for politicians perhaps to discuss. But he says he give them to foster good relationship. And it seems that the trade-off is paying off because the unions are relatively silent and the unions seems to agree with the government actions, even if it meant that some of their own workers are being politically collared and punished. So the Prime Minister's attitude might be a good trade-off in terms of giving them the money, he said, for good relationship. It may not be an illegal thing, but that left for discussion in the future. Yeah? So I think it's very important for families to understand that the children must know the history. We are a small country. We seem not to have the ability to easily pass on generational wealth and information on our history. So we always learning some false history, some history that is suspect, the sincerity of the history is so suspect. Then why not teach our children our history or write our history? So issues on the revolution, we still have a lot of people that is alive. And you can hear their views. You still have people that are victims. And you can speak to them. The Rastafarian movement in Grenada suffered significantly under the 4.5 years of the revolutionary experiment. Why do I think these things are important now? Because a new group of people who was basic or mere children or was not even born yet in 1979 is glorifying an experiment that took place in Grenada that was illegal, unnecessary, immoral, and supervised over the worst crimes in Grenada after slavery and colonialism. So I believe it's these people don't know our history. I don't know what book they read. But we have people in the parliament as young as 21 or 22 years. The revolution collapsed about 40 years ago. The prime minister of Grenada would have born around 78, 79. So all of them are were infants or did not exist. But they seems to be crying, my bishop, we love you. Bishop, we miss you. Bishop, come and help us. Something have to wrong with this group of political juveniles. So you're asking for the assistance and help of an individual who in the first place, because of the circumstances under which he died, his spirit might be still very vengeful. And secondly, he was not he did not believe in democracy. He overthrew a legitimate government. He did not believe in religion. The communists then always say that religion is the opium of the people. They did not believe in religion, and they made no bones about not practicing it. So now, why is it necessary? Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome. We lost that caller. Yeah, caller? Okay. So why is it necessary? Yes, caller, welcome. Caller, you're there, and either you have some technicalities, so you have to try and call back. Because we know you're there, but we were not getting any feedback from you. So why was it necessary? Why was it necessary for the government seems to be embracing a failed experiment in every sense of the word in the revolution? Then the government went further and reintroduced Ministry of Mobilization. The government should publicly explain to the public, explain to us why, what is the importance, what is the justification for the Ministry of Mobilization, implementation, and transformation. Because it seems that the perception on the ground is this ministry is for victimization purpose. It is in the interest of the government to explain to the public why that ministry exists. I believe that ministry should be disbanded. It should be closed down. That ministry is there for mischief. Selwyn Strachan, in 1981, I believe, was the previous Minister of Mobilization. And if the government is now reintroducing a Ministry of Mobilization, why? What is the justification? What is the rationale? What is the economic significance of the ministry? One could have said in the revolution, there was mass organization, there was militia, it was a one-party state, and the government was organizing NWO, NYO, Pioneer, and there was constantly in search of counter-revolutionary. So that was the justification for the Ministry of Mobilization. But in today's society, if the National Democratic Congress wants to mobilize the party, that's not a ministry, that's a party issue. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre, good afternoon.
Yes, caller, welcome.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear. Go right ahead.
Yes, it seems like you have a lot of questions and concerns about the way things are going. So I'm anticipating that you'll be at the town hall meeting today to ask your questions.
Where you have your town hall meeting?
There'll be a town hall meeting at the Trade Center with the Prime Minister today.
No, I will not be at the town hall meeting.
Why not?
I think that this question, the Prime Minister need to make a public statement on that. I don't
need
think.
to be there to ask him so he could make the public statement.
No, the Prime Minister said, I'm not a journalist. I'm a radio personality and I provoke discussion. The Prime Minister said.
The public is invited. You're part of the public.
The Prime Minister said that information will be on a need-to-know basis. And I believe if we are reintroducing Ministry of Mobilization, the Prime Minister should tell us why. Why do you have a Ministry of Mobilization? Why do we have a Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, and Transformation? Why?
Mr. Pierre, you have your chance to ask the question.
That's what I'm doing on the public too. I'm asking it on the public.
No,
I noticed
the Prime Minister. The public can answer your question. The Prime Minister that would answer it.
No, Chief, what the public could start to do is to wonder, see if that is relevant. People will start to ask themselves why we have a Ministry of Mobilization. They remember what happened in 1981. What was the purpose of the mobilization in 81?
Well, you need to ask the Prime Minister that. You have a chance to ask him that today.
Caller, there are other ways of asking the Prime Minister a question and going into his...
No, today is your day. You go down there, as everybody else, you put your hand up and you ask your question.
Thank you for the information.
All right, thanks.
Yes, thank you for the information. And it's good that the Prime Minister have its town hall meeting. And I know what town hall meeting is about. The Prime Minister would not entertain my question in depth there. What I think the Prime Minister would have to, if he believes that the Ministry of Mobilization is justified, he should explain to the public why. Yes, caller, welcome.
How are you doing, brother?
Great, man.
I was reading an article there on through Google News, and it was saying that the oligarchs, the Russian oligarchs, those Russian billionaires, them who trying to run from Putin, are heavily seeking Grenadian passport, Grenadian citizenship, for them to transit to America, you know? So I don't know what link that might have to the Ministry of Mobilization, you understand? But I find that word song as a Russian word for me too much. Have a good day, brother. I ain't had too much money, so I can't talk too long.
All right.
Go on. Okay then.
Thank you, Carl. The war in Russia is going on and it's getting worse. The richest stage where a lot of drones is being used. Ukraine might be bombed back to the dark ages. It would be practically impossible for Russia to conquer Ukraine on the ground, but it could destroy the Ukraine economy completely. Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome. We lost you? Okay. We lost these callers. You might have to try us. Yes, caller, welcome. Welcome, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon,
Yeah,
Mr. Pierre.
go right ahead.
Yeah, what I want to say is that in 1983-79, the People's Law, they passed a law where you are guilty before you are charged and before you are tried. I know a guy that won his case. They charged him, he won his case, and he was taken up into the prison. That is what I want to ask, and fine.
Yeah, well, yes, I think I witnessed one situation in St. Andrews in Grenville where the magistrate told an individual, you're free to go. We dropped the charge against you, there was no charge. And the PRA then inside the courthouse told the magistrate, you say you're free, but we don't know that. And they went back with the individual. Yes, caller, welcome.
This guy that just called concerning Ukraine, okay?
Yeah.
If you can give me a call, 442-1610.
Right. So caller, I hope you're here, 442-1610.
Thank you.
Yes. The person who called about Ukraine, please call that number. That person wants to get in contact with 442-1610. Yes, the war in Ukraine going to have serious consequences for small countries, the third world countries, Africa and other countries. Ukraine and Russia produce a significant quantity of the grain in the world. And the war is in its 8th month. Yes, caller, welcome.
Yeah, Mr. Pierre, good day.
Yes, my brother.
Yeah. One of them guy who was taken back up to prison to study Victor when they put the AK with 35 pin in his car, and then he won the case, and they said, "Now you can't go." Or when the case finished and he won, he can't walk free. He had to go back up, and he ended up back in prison, and he came out after the invasion. Take him, Mr. Pierre, have a good day.
Yes, a number of individuals that was done to. They brought a case against them. They went to court. The magistrate freed them. The PRA say, the magistrate say you're free, but we don't know that. Back into prison. Maurice Bishop had no respect for law. That is why I am practically disturbed when these young group of the National Democratic Congress is trying to ride on the popularity and the spirit of Maurice Bishop. Maurice Bishop was an orator. He had charisma. Grenadians love him. There are some time we say where one man could go cussing and next man can go praying. That was Maurice Bishop in the eyes of the public. Why would a young group of National Democratic Congress individuals, where Maurice Bishop jailed so much of the forefathers, so much of the elders in the party, seems want to embrace Maurice Bishop and the same evil tactics? I see the Ministry of Mobilization as a ministry of mischief, political mischief. Never in Grenada, at any time after the revolution, what is going on now took place. People work with government 7, 8, 10, 15 years. Women. And you know, sometimes I press on women because 60% of the household is led by women. This is very important and significant in terms of our development. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Mr. Pierre?
Yes, scholar.
Good day, good day.
Yeah.
Oh, I hope you had a good weekend.
Yes, man, my weekend was great.
Okay. Whole day, about every hour, every day, you're calling, you're saying this, you're saying that. The Prime Minister of this country, you have a town meeting. Instead of attacking and asking questions, go down in the town meeting and ask the question. Instead of attacking and saying nonsense every day, so you waste your time, go and ask the question. Stop saying attacking nonsense. Go and ask the man the question. He will answer you. Sapir, you have a good day.
Hey, caller, you gone? Yes, I know you say I'm speaking nonsense. And yes, you may be correct. Because I say to you, that is why I don't support children wasting time or spending too much time, not wasting time, spending time in history in school. Because you have never said to me, what I say is not the truth. That's the difference. You have to tell me that what I say is not the truth. You don't like me to hear me say 3,000 Grenadians was in jail without charge and without trial. You don't like to hear me say that. You don't like to hear me say that an individual was castrated. They asked him, do you know how they're castrating a pig? And he said, yes. They asked, how they're castrating a pig? He said, well, they cut the balls and they put some salt and water. You will be castrated like a pig. We go add pepper too. This was the preliminary case in the courthouse in Grenville. I didn't see it happen, but the case in Grenville in the courthouse, I was there in the courthouse in Grenville when that took place. You could ask I-Free what they did with the Rastas in the cow pen. Ask I-Free. I-Free celebrated his 77th birthday. I was there in his birthday celebration. Ask him. He is still around. I saw a lot of the Rasta men. And if I could have been like Obama and wear me tears, one would have come from my eyes. A lot of the Rastas, maybe the youngest one that was there was about 38, 77, 80. I remember the faces. They were the young men of 1979 that Morris Bishop rounded up in jail. Ask Ivory. Tillman Thomas is alive. Go and ask him. How many people Morris Bishop sent to prison? Ask Tillman Thomas. He was the human rights lawyer. He went in jail. So I'm saying these things on radio because I realize the government of Grenada is embracing a period of our history where the worst crimes in Grenada were committed after slavery and colonialism. I believe that the government is embracing it because they want to hatch onto the popularity of Morris Bishop's spirit, and they're wrong. I don't have to go to the town hall meeting in St. George's to ask this question. No, I've never had an encounter with the Prime Minister in my life. I've never spoken to him. I only see him on television and on internet. I'll be out of place. I noticed that the Ministry of Mobilization, we have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome. Hello. Yes, caller, welcome.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah.
What I want to say is, I hear that the Prime Minister says that he has to get that Morris Bishop remains to give it a proper funeral. But what I want to know is our relatives that died. Well, we want their remains too, to give them a proper funeral too.
And while you're looking for Morris Bishop remains, it might easier for him to get I. Emmanuel, Jerry remains, Mackenzie remains, and Iman remains. All of them died during Morris Bishop period. One guy from Montreal too. It's easy for him to get those remains. I want the government to disband the ministry. Now tell me how Grenadians could accept that we have a ministry that seems to be sending the agents to activities of the opposing party to see how much public officers attend that party. Now I want to say it again. Based upon what is on the ground, based upon statements made by known political activists and mouthpiece of the NDC, the Ministry of Mobilization, Transformation and Implementation seems to be sending the agents in activities organized by the NNP to see how much public officers are attending this. Now, how low must we go before people speak? Don't expect public officers to object. By the very nature of the work, public officers cannot object to that. But don't expect that to affect them, not to affect them. What would happen in the ministry when public officers are spied on? Because if you attend an activity and then you have agents in publicly, these statements were made publicly. These statements was on the social media publicly and on radio a number of times before I speak about it. I believe that I wanted to give an opportunity, particularly to the Ministry of Mobilization, because I know this ministry is the ministry of mischief. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre, I'll tell you something. You show up You show up at a meeting like that, you're entitled to get blues. Have a good day.
Well, I'm tongue long, you know. I'm tongue long. You know. It's not yesterday I come, I'm tongue long. So I know what about it. I used to attend political class, you know. During that time, the Ministry of Mobilization organized political class for all public officers. The public officers that refused to go, the heads of department ordered them to go. And if you go in political class and you stay quiet, they took objection to it. They want you to ask questions. And if they felt, well, they know all who was involved in militia and mass organization. And this is about the worst period for public officers. It's only those who are fearless and dare or a little dumb and stupid that used to open their mouth. It's only the public officers that are little dumb and stupid that used to open their mouth. And by doing that, the majority of public officers did not want people to see you in close proximity with them. So I'm tongue long. I know what this scholar wants me to do. He wants me to go into that meeting. So when I come back, maybe all my tire bust up or my head bust. You know. So this is it. This is the scenario that we are creating back in Grenada. Agents are going in meetings, in activities held by the opponent of the NDC to see who are the public officers in those activities. I guess this would give them quicker evidence to make life difficult for them. They will not be able to fire public officers under the established system easily, but they could make their life terrible. They could refuse to give them promotion. They could refuse to give them scholarships. They could make their life hell. Now, how far we must go before people object to that? That's why I would like that ministry to be disbanded. Close down the Ministry of Mobilization. Or the Prime Minister must publicly tell us why this ministry is justified. Remember, there are statements that is associated with the Prime Minister that I have not heard him publicly disassociate himself from the statement. That is the one where, in an interview that took place in Tobago, where it is alleged that he said it is not so much transformation, but restorative justice. Our journalists are so photogenic and cozy and parading the briefcase as certificate that they have practically lost their way. We're going to ask this on our radio here. Yes, caller, welcome. Yes, caller, welcome. All right, so we lost it. Yes, caller, welcome. But we're going to ask the journalists in Tobago to ask him. We're going to ask the journalists outside of the Caribbean. We will have to lobby some of the journalists outside of the Caribbean to ask the Prime Minister that. Because he must answer. You must answer that. You ain't getting away with that. Disband the Ministry of Mobilization. There is no place in Grenada. Yes, caller, welcome. All right, that caller is trying to get us, but seems to be challenged. There is no place in Grenada in 2022 for this sort of behavior. No place in Grenada. It is not in the interest of the National Democratic Congress. It is not in the interest of the National Democratic Congress. Grenada is too intertwined. Family members have very good relationship with one another, but they are different political parties. Friends traveling in the same vehicles are different political parties. Husband and wife, some of them jumping up for yellow, some for green. We've gone too far to turn the hand of the clock back. The National Democratic Congress is wrong. The Prime Minister is wrong. And the Ministry of Mobilization must be disbanded. Close it down. You have no use for it. You could appoint a minister as minister responsible for implementation, or minister without portfolio responsible for implementation. What you do to Andy is wrong. You're treating Andy as a patriotic bourgeois. And a patriotic bourgeois in a socialist system could be used, but is also expendable. So Andy eventually may find himself in the shitty end of the stick. Because based upon the socialist principles, a patriotic bourgeois is expendable. The socialists say you could always work with them, but Andy is ambitious. So eventually they're going to expend with him. Because he is a minister of mischief. Disband that ministry and make Andy minister without portfolio responsible for implementation. And in that way, he will be able to help you expedite projects that meet bottlenecks and are not moving as fast as they could. And he will be able to do that. But if you put Andy in that ministry, you are associating him with mischief. And because he is ambitious, he may try to do a good job. And eventually, that ministry would be an albatross around your neck. And you will have to expend with poor Andy. The ministry is wrong. You see, you want to embrace Maurice Bishop's popularity and his spirit. Maurice Bishop was just a good orator. But he had done great wrong to a lot of people in the country. And callers, I know some of you wouldn't agree with me, but I believe it's important at this time for us to speak about these things so that you will learn the history. The position you give, let me read one or two from the Facebook. And I see my father is there, Onisto. And he have the best position in the government where he gets things done. And I think he is on the ball. And we do see the process made so far. Yes, I know you're going to agree. Andy is ambitious. And you put him in a ministry responsible for victimization and mischief. Onisto, you would like that. Andy is in a ministry of mischief. But the poor boy, the poor young man is ambitious. So you're going to sacrifice him. Because eventually, once he continues on that trajectory, he will be destroyed. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good morning, my brother.
Yes, sister, welcome.
Yes, I'll send no time. The death of Sister Gabrielle.
Sister Gabriella?
Yes.
When is she buried?
I don't know when she buried,
Okay,
but
yeah.
she died Friday.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful knowing you here. I trained on that shoe with the Legion of Mary.
The Legion of Mary?
Yes, I was a full member of the Legion of Mary.
Yeah.
I trained on that shoe. She's wonderful and she's really nice.
Yes, she made significant contribution
Yes,
to the education system, to the church, to the Munich community,
yes.
and a number of individuals who came in close working condition with her.
Oh, yes.
Admire.
Yes,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because he has some little school children from my family, and I have a grandniece.
Yeah. She dedicated her whole life to service of the community.
Yeah.
Service of the people. It was not about wealth.
Yes,
that they wasn't making money. They demonstrate their whole life for service. And that is what we have to encourage our politicians to do.
Yes, so,
yeah.
So Brother Pierre,
yes.
You have a wonderful and a blessed evening.
Thank you, and it's good to hear your voice.
I love you, darling.
And it's good to hear your voice.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So we want to express our sympathy and condolence to the family of Sister Gabriela, the people from Munich, the Catholic Church, the convent. She taught in the convent for many, many years and involved in group, the Legion of Mary, and other groups in the church that she was associated with. And what we do, we pray that her soul will be rest in peace. Rest in peace. They say it's a good and wholesome thing to pray for the dead. Some people don't believe in praying for the dead. God, Christ said, the living have no advantage over the dead. So it's good to pray for the dead. And you pray for Sister Gabriela. The Catholics believe it's a good and wholesome thing to pray for the dead. When Lazarus was dead, it's his sister that interceded on his behalf. All the people in the Bible you hear about that they raised from the dead, they didn't go and ask. It's people who were praying for them. And the disciples raised Dorcas from the dead. She was a woman advanced in age. She was a seamstress. Maybe a lot of them didn't pay her. The church was closed. But she was a good woman. So they cried. And the disciples took pity on the community and raised Dorcas from the dead. Now we have All Saints. It's a good time for your history. Tell your children the names of your parents and grandparents. Tell them their stories. Spend more time teaching your children about your history. You will be surprised to know they will grow more patriotic. They'll be more respectful. If Tillita tells your daughter her history, your daughter would not have been so dismissive of Tillita. Some people felt they were so poor, they see so much trouble that they never tell their children their history. So today is the last day of October, but we will not run away from the history of Grenada, and we want the government to disband the Ministry of Mobilization, Implementation, Transformation, Natural Restorative Justice, and Detoxification. Disband this ministry. And you have an opportunity to come back tomorrow and punch.
Our ethnicities, the bonds that unite us are stronger than these. We dine, we pray, we love, we dance and we play. We relate to each other, rest in Yahweh. Today as a people united as one, determined and steadfast we stand. We look to a brand new horizon, the future now firmly in our hands. Raise your voices high and sing of your Caribbean pride. Sing it loud and strong.